acquaintance be forgot for the sake of Auld Lang Syne.
With a seasonal rendering of Auld Lang Syne, the annual New Year's Day swim got underway. Collectors with buckets were out in force to raise money for the Clevedon Community Centre, which has launched a fundraising drive to carry out vital repairs to the building. As is usual on these occasions, there were some madcap activities before the serious business started. And so, with the water temperature topping 6 degrees centigrade, a lot warmer than in previous years, the main event of the morning took place. About 30 swimmers took the plunge, encouraged by hundreds of well-wishers on the shore. The oldest swimmer taking part in the swim was 80-year-old Joyce Peters from Clevedon. The collecting buckets raised a princely sum of £517. 2 weeks later, a cheque for that amount was presented to Carol Hoggarty, the chair of the Community Centre, by Richard Hamilton James of the Middle Yeo Surf Life Saving Club, as the swimmers bizarrely call themselves. The popular and fast-growing local club for pilot gig racing has been selected to take part in a river pageant on the Thames in June as a tribute to the Queen's 60-year reign. The club's one-year-old boat, Watch and Pray, seen here during the Timoth Regatta last year, will join over 1,000 other craft in an event that will be seen by millions of people both on the riverbanks and around the world on TV. The club has also been awarded a £10,000 grant to buy a second boat. The as yet unnamed vessel will join Watch and Pray, and both boats will be stored on the pier during the summer months. Pilot gigs were used to carry the local pilots out to foreign vessels entering the Bristol Channel en route to the ports of Bristol and Cardiff. Clevedon Pilot Gig Club also plan to enter both gigs in the World Championships to be held on the Scilly Isles in May. Watch and Pray will be joined in the Diamond Jubilee pageant by 25 other gigs from around the country, including the Isambard from the Bristol Gig Club. 2 other vessels, normally to be seen on the Bristol harbour side, will be taking part. They are the Matthew, a modern replica of the ship that took explorer John Cabot across the Atlantic to discover Newfoundland in 1497, and the fireboat Pyrenaut, built in 1934 at the Albion shipyard, now the site of the Bristol Marina. Pyrenaut is currently moored in front of the new M-Shed Museum. It is also rumoured that the paddle steamer Waverley, a frequent spring visitor to our own pier, will be journeying down from the Clyde, where she is normally based. Waverley was built almost 70 years ago and is the world's last seagoing paddle steamer. During the coming winter months, the members of the Clevedon+Pilot Gig Club will be putting Watch and Pray through her paces on the historic floating harbour in Bristol, prior to their momentous journey down the Thames, following in the wake of the Queen's royal barge. The steps that run up between the now closed Seeley's newsagent and Neil's the ironmonger's shop in Hill Road had to be closed earlier in the month due to a collapsed wall. The wall runs alongside the steps that lead up to the zigzag path and on to Dial Hill. It is thought to have been dislodged during recent heavy rain and high winds. The North Somerset Council is now seeking to establish the owner of the path and wall. The RSPCA are the latest charity to open their shop in the town. They are due to take over the empty shoe tree shop in Old Church Road. That will make a total of 9 charity shops in the Triangle area. Much anger has been voiced in the town at the North Somerset Council's decision to withdraw their funding for the popular local runabout bus, the 800. The scrapping of the service is part of the cost-saving measures being introduced by the council, measures that will also see a reduction in the timetables of other buses, particularly in the evenings and on Saturdays. A bid by Clevedon Pier Trust to the Heritage Lottery Fund for finance towards building a new visitor centre on the landward end of the Victorian Pier has passed through its first phase. It's hoped that the second stage of the bid will be approved by September and that building work can commence early in 2013. Meanwhile, fundraising activities are in full swing to raise the rest of the money needed to build the facility. A MUGA is a multi-use games area, and one is coming to a Salthouse tennis courts near Hugh. This town council project has a budget of £50,000 and has been many years in the planning. The Clevedon MUGA will occupy 2 of the little-used beach tennis courts, which the town council has leased from the owners, North Somerset Council, for the peppercorn rent of £1 a year. To those of us ex-pupils of St Andrew's Junior School, the construction of a high wooden hoarding round the playground caused much concern recently. The explanation was that the old building, now called Holdsworth House, which was for many years occupied as offices, is to be turned into 7 luxury flats. Clevedon's first national school appeared next door to the fire station in 1835, with 100 registered pupils. 25 years later, the more recognisable senior school, later called St Andrew's Junior, was erected on the site. In the years that followed, 3 other local schools were opened in the town, with the British School opening on Chapel Hill in the late 1850s, and All Saints School being built next to the church in East Clevedon in 1873. Finally, the St John's School was established near the new St John's Church in 1878. The ancient custom of wassailing, in which apple trees are awakened from their winter sleep, involves the visiting of local orchards, reciting cantations and singing to the trees in order to promote a good harvest for the coming year.
The purpose of wassailing is to wake up the trees. They're sleeping in the winter, so we've got to make lots of noise and wake.
This wassail was held in the Millennium Orchard off Brookfield Walk and involved traditional activities like placing cider-soaked toast into the branches of the trees and pouring cider at the base of the tree, presumably to remind it of what it is supposed to produce the following autumn. Members of Transition Clevedon, who now run the orchard, then sang the traditional wassailing song.
Ready with us?
Other wassailing traditions are the banging of pots and pans and the general making of a terrible racket to ward off evil spirits, and of course the drinking of mulled cider and the eating of apple cake.
Mulled cider, anyone?
The orchard was planted by the local conservation group, Woodcutters for Wildlife, at the behest of the Clevedon Town Council, who own the land which borders the M5 motorway near to Junction 20. The orchard originally contained over 60 cider apple trees, all with a Somerset provenance. Watch this space regarding the success or otherwise of these incantations in a later edition of the Clevedon News. After 40 years of entertaining at the Triangle Club with pantomimes and variety shows, the members of the Triangle Showpeople group have decided to hang up their dancing shoes. By way of saying thanks, past members of the group were invited to a farewell supper. Following the hearty meal, CAFTA Awards, that's Clevedon's version of the BAFTAs, were presented.
Gary and Steve as Ronnie and Roxy from EastEnders. And Anthony Bray as Titania from A Tale of Two Halves. Steve Jude and Gary Carr-Smith, please would you like to come and accept your certificates and your award. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve and Gary. So we move on to the Best Dance Act, and the nominees are Lisa Johns for Leader of the Pack, Alma Perry for Mambo number 5, oh, Richard Anderson again for Ring of Fire, and the winner of Best Dance Act is Alma Perry.
Every year that we did, and I'm missing it all very much. So thank you for this. I never thought I'd be good enough for it. Thank you once again.
Throughout the Showpeople's 40 years, there have been many actresses worthy of this award, but we have managed to whittle it down to just 4. And the nominees are Anthony Bray as Fair Enough, Anthony Bray as Wishy Washy, Anthony Bray as Baroness Hardup, and Anthony Bray as Titania. And the winner is, I haven't got a clue on this one, I've hedged my bets. It's Anthony Bray as Aldrin. She has entertained Clevedon for 40 years. The Lifetime Achievement Award goes to June Thomas.
Every year for 40 years. I can't get into it, but it comes. Thank you very much, all of you.
Another local entertainment group celebrating their 40th anniversary this year is the Clevedon Gilbert and Sullivan Society. Formed in 1972 by members of the Community School Parent Teachers Association, they have been performing the shows of this popular Victorian partnership ever since. For 2012, they have chosen The Sorcerer, a tale of mystique and love potions. We eavesdropped on their rehearsals. Under the watchful eye of founder member Harry Ellis and chairman Dave Robinson, their first rehearsal on stage at the Prince's Hall took place just 2 weeks before the opening night. Producer Jane Bull kept an attentive eye on proceedings, as did musical director Carol Kenway, accompanying them from the keyboard, keep a critical ear on their musical performance. This production of Gilbert and Sullivan's The Sorcerer will take place at the Prince's Hall, Clevedon, from Wednesday the 15th to Saturday the 18th of February, starting at 7:30.